My husband and I found out 2 months ago that we are expecting our first child. Last week, we officially announced it via text and phone calls to our friends and family. The next day at work, I found out that one of my coworkers had taken the photo of my sonogram I had sent them in the group text and posted it on her social media to fool her ex-boyfriend, who she broke up with a few weeks ago, into thinking she was pregnant. I never wanted my sonogram on the internet. I don't have a Facebook or an Instagram or anything like that, and I feel extremely uncomfortable that it's out there without me being able to control the audience of who was looking at it. When I had expressed to my coworker that I was upset, she said I was being, quote, dramatic, and I'm just looking for something to be upset over because I'm pregnant. She said she covered up the identity information and that it was only up for a few hours, and she told her ex-boyfriend the truth after making him sweat for a bit. Half of my friends are saying that I overreacted and it's just a harmless joke, while the other half says she completely stepped over the line. Are pregnancy hormones making me more upset about this than I should be? For about 10 years, I have been in a group of friends, 6 couples and 3 singles. One of the couples, Jane and John, started trying for a baby about 6 to 7 years ago, and they found out that they most likely would never have a baby. Neither of the rest of us were trying at that time, but they asked that whenever someone got pregnant, we would let them know in private and respect that they might need some space. Until 4 years ago, it was all fine between us all, but Jane still hadn't gotten pregnant and she was struggling a lot, especially with several of our friends having babies, including me and my husband. Jane didn't want to be around us as much and asked that we step down on all contact. All of us with kids, that is. We understood and respected it, but after a while, she started talking bad about us to our friends without kids and posting things on Facebook and Instagram, basically ranting about how awful we all were and that we were having kids to rub it in her face that she couldn't get pregnant. After about a year of this, I blocked her on everything. And I didn't hear from her until a few days ago. She is 7 months pregnant and wants to make up and put the past behind us. But I said I don't want to. I'm still hurt by the things she said to me about my kids and our friends. I understand she was hurting and struggling a lot with her friends having babies when she wanted one so bad. And I do forgive her, but I just don't want to let her back into my life. Most of our friends feel the same way, but our single friends and one couple who are child-free thinks we're being too hard on Jane and that we should forgive her. But Jane was really horrible and said awful, hurtful things. Even though we did all we could to be respectful and supportive and did all they asked of us, I just can't bring myself to be close with her again. So, am I the idiot?
So this is a story of when I worked at the bank and I was getting robbed and I didn't understand I was getting robbed. So this customer came to my window and I asked him to slide his debit card and he's like, oh, I don't have a debit card. And I was like, okay, just give me your ID or your social and I can pull up your account. And then he proceeds to hand me this paper and it says, give me $6,000 or I'll go NWA on your ass. So I'm like, what does NWA mean? Because I don't know what the hell, I don't know. So then he looks at me, he's like, you really don't know what it means? And then so he tells me and I'm just like, oh. And I was like, I'm sorry, sir, but if you don't have an account, I won't be able to give you any money. But I do have a banker available if you want to open up an account. And he's like, no, I don't want to open up an account. I just want $6,000. It was a really long date for me. And I was just like, sir, I'm sorry, but go ahead and slide your card and I'd be able to help you out. And then he's like, listen, take it out of Snoop Dogg's account, take it out of Kanye West's account, take it out of 50 Cent's account, take it out of somebody's account. And I still didn't understand what was going on. I have 2 kids, a daughter who's 30 and a son who's 27. Their mother isn't in the picture. I have a relatively high-earning job, and I was able to save $100K for each child to send them to college. My daughter received a full scholarship where her tuition and board was paid for, but I had to pay for my son's education and living expenses with the money I saved up. Both of my children knew I saved $100,000 for each of their college expenses, but my daughter got a full ride, and I told her I'd hold on to it until she wanted to use it for her wedding or a down payment for a house. So when my daughter asked me last week to buy a house, I gladly gave her the money. A few days later, I got an angry call from my son accusing me of favoritism and how I'm being unfair. I tried to explain to him that I just gave her the college fund I was saving up for her, which was the same amount as what I've given him for college.
My husband and I have 2.5 kids. My oldest is 10 years old, my middle child is 5, and I'm currently 5 months pregnant. My 10-year-old is from a previous relationship, and my 5-year-old is adopted. My sister got pregnant unexpectedly, saw adoption as her only choice, and didn't want the baby to go to strangers, so I stepped up. We did everything right. My sister went to therapy to consult on her choice, and I went with her to make sure she was sure, and we did everything that was recommended for adoptive mothers/birth mothers along the way. It wasn't an immediate adoption. I got guardianship, and we built to an adoption, and my sister was involved in the entire process, and again, never expressed any issues in the time it took to finalize. Just over a month ago, I announced my pregnancy. My 5-year-old knows about the biological relationship between her and my sister. Shortly after telling people about the pregnancy, my sister and I arranged to meet up in person in the park. She then told my 5-year-old to give mommy a hug, and my 5-year-old immediately grabbed me and my sister got shitty about it. I asked her what she was trying to do, and she said that I had a baby on the way and assumed that I was done with the 5-year-old and was going to have a new favorite. I said I don't play favorites and don't know what game she's playing at, but I'm not interested. She pushed it, saying that once the baby is born, my husband won't want 2 kids he's not related to hanging around and that I should do the right thing and give her her kid back. She also mentioned something about age, as her 35th is coming up, which she feels makes her an old mom, and kept telling me to do the right thing, saying I should have known that because we're sisters, it was only ever going to be a babysitting gig. I got my husband and kids and we left. Obviously, I'm not handing over my 5-year-old. That isn't even up for debate. But my sister is giving her biased and altered side of the story to our entire family, saying I manipulated her into giving the baby up when she was pregnant. She even told them that I screamed and hit her that day in the park. While a fair number of relatives know she's spouting absolute bullshit, there's still a handful, including my mother and grandmother, who believe her hook, line, and sinker, which is damaging relationships that both I and my kids feel are important. How do I get my sister to come off her little crusade without having to entertain surrendering a child? What can I say to my relatives who believe her to convince them I'm not the weird, manipulative, baby-stealing witch my sister has made me out to be? I am the eldest of 3 sisters, 23, 19, and 17. My youngest sister's boyfriend has made these really weird eyes at me before and has said flirty things, which I've always ignored and told her about. She would just go, LOL, that's just how he is. He doesn't mean anything by it. That's trifling as hell because you are my baby sister's boyfriend and it's gross AF for so many other reasons. Last night, my middle sister came to my apartment just to hang out. One minute we were watching Netflix and drinking wine, and the next minute she's breaking down crying, confessing that over her winter break, she slept with our younger sister's boyfriend. I was so shocked, the ability of speech failed me in that moment. I just sat there flabbergasted as she gave me the entire 4-week account of this fling that she had with him. She had just gotten out of a longest-term relationship herself and was heartbroken. According to her, he was around and down for whatever. When she was done, I asked her why she was telling me this, and she said that she hoped I'd be able to tell her what to do. I told her this is going to crush our sister because she has always talked about being the ugly little sister and being stuck in our shadows, which couldn't be farther from the truth. She really placed a lot of her self-worth and value in this relationship and she will be devastated. I think she deserves to know, so I told her that you need to tell her ASAP or I will. She said that it wasn't my place, and I told her, you included me in this. I was perfectly content to watch Grey's Anatomy and cry my eyes out, and then you turned my apartment into a confessional. After I took her home, I wondered if there was a better way to approach this that wasn't so confrontational. I'm open to suggestions, particularly those that will not destroy my sister's relationship, because I take absolutely no joy in being the bearer of shitty news. My husband and I had our daughter about a week ago. Early in the pregnancy, we chose her name but kept it quiet. Her first name is after my husband's late mom, and her middle name is my favorite flower. The name caused a stir with my husband's family because since he was 8, he had a stepmom, and not only did he honor his mom, but so did his brother when he had a son, by giving a male sort of equivalent of their mom's name. And this had upset their stepmom because they have never bonded with her or considered her their mom, and she feels disrespected and hurt. This past week, we had a neighbor stop by while my husband's family was visiting the baby, and she asked about the name choice, and I told her she was named after my husband's mom. My neighbor said it was lovely and left, and then my husband's dad and stepmom turned on me for saying that, without acknowledging that he had another mom in the room and making her feel even more looked over. My husband told them that he has only one mother and that they need to get over it and that they should apologize to me or leave. It kind of blew up from there. My husband's half and step-siblings are all upset that I would say that in front of stepmom. Pretty much everyone there is mad except my husband and his brother, who was furious that stepmom referred to herself as their mom. I guess I just feel a little bad because I know my husband and his brother could never find a way to let their stepmom in and it hurts her. But I also see how much they love their mom and that they're good people who have happy lives. This has just been a thing for 20 years now, and I wonder if I was being insensitive. But I also know that in my husband and brother-in-law's hearts, their mom is their only mom and maternal figure, and I was respecting their feelings on it. I guess I'm just feeling a little, I don't know, uncertain. So am I the asshole? 4 years ago, I broke up with my boyfriend Dan, but I decided not to tell him. Dan had been coming around to my apartment and my work even though I repeatedly told him I was not interested. I had been planning to move to get away from him and I didn't want him to have an excuse to be in my life. So when I moved away, I didn't tell him I was pregnant and I didn't put his name on the birth certificate. Last year when my daughter was 2, I got married and my husband adopted her. Dan and my sister were still friends in high school, and since Dan still lives in my hometown, they occasionally catch up. A week ago, Dan called me and said that he found out through my sister that I'd been pregnant not long after we broke up. He was furious that I had never told him and that the baby might be his and accused me of keeping him away from his daughter. I told my husband, and he's furious that I never told him about my daughter's father. He was always under the impression that her father hadn't wanted to be in the picture, and he's been cold to me ever since I told him. I do not ever want Dan around my daughter, and I think I was justified in my decision to protect her from him. But Dan keeps calling and asking to see his daughter, and my husband says I betrayed both him and Dan by lying about this.
I have 2 kids, a daughter who's 30 and a son who's 27. Their mother isn't in the picture. I have a relatively high-earning job, and I was able to save $100K for each child to send them to college. My daughter received a full scholarship where her tuition and board was paid for, but I had to pay for my son's education and living expenses with the money I saved up. Both of my children knew I saved $100,000 for each of their college expenses, but my daughter got a full ride, and I told her I'd hold on to it until she wanted to use it for her wedding or a down payment for a house. So when my daughter asked me last week to buy a house, I gladly gave her the money. A few days later, I got an angry call from my son accusing me of favoritism and how I'm being unfair. I tried to explain to him that I just gave her the college fund I was saving up for her, which was the same amount as what I've given him for college. He still thinks I should have split the money evenly so it'd be more fair. But both of my kids are fighting right now. The money has always been my daughter's, and I already gave my son his share to pay for his college expenses. Both of them are college educated with good jobs, so it's not like my son desperately needs the money. So you guys tell me, am I the asshole in this case? Should I just split the money?